This video is for Scrum Masters and project managers who are looking to roll out BDD in their projects. In this video, we will see why traditional software development in Agile projects don't work, and how you could address these issues with BDD. We will also go through a collaboration technique called OOPSIE, which brings your entire team together, how you could automate BDD in minutes and without code, and save thousands of dollars, the reports you need, and a software release strategy. Let's look at the issue of the traditional software development lifecycle, in which typically the user story gets handed over to the developer. The developer implements the code based on their understanding, then the tester takes over and tests the implemented solution based on their understanding. Finally, the product owner provides the feedback based on their understanding. At this point, the product owner's interpretation could be completely different to the developer's or the tester's interpretation, which may result in a complete rework of the implemented solution. Worse, the product owner may not pick a certain scenario, which may not have the right implemented solution and might get deployed in a higher environment or even worse, in production. The later the issues are found, the more expensive it gets, as shown in this graph. Let's look at how this issue has been addressed using BDD. When using BDD, the team, mainly the three amigos, i.e. the product owner, developer, and tester, collaborate and derive scenarios, which are close to the real world related to the domain in which they work. Then the developer implements a solution for the agreed scenarios, and the tester can start to write the automation test for the scenarios at the same time. Only when all scenarios successfully pass, the demo is given to the product owner. Since the scenarios are agreed up front, the chances of misinterpretation or the team being on different pages reduces dramatically, resulting in fewer bugs. So when using BDD, collaborating and deriving should be the first step before any development activity starts. Let's look at how BDD should be rolled out for a given user story. OOPSIE is a collaboration technique which is very efficient, that brings the entire team together and derives scenarios that provide the highest business outcomes. OOPSIE is an acronym. The first O stands for outcome, which is nothing but a business outcome. The second O stands for output, i.e. what outputs are required to achieve that outcome. P stands for process, i.e. the process required to achieve that output. S stands for different scenarios which would go through the process. I stands for input, all the inputs required, whether it is input required to enter in user screens or the data required for an API for each of those scenarios. Outcome could be the acceptance criteria defined in the user story, which is typically defined by the BA or the product owner. Then the team should collaborate and consider any other business outcomes that may be relevant to the story. Outputs are anything that goes out of the system, including storing data in a database, page shown to the user, or an email that is sent out from the application. Process is nothing but a process flow that is required to achieve each of those outputs. Once a process flow diagram is derived, it would be easy to derive scenarios based on the process flow diagram and the business outcome. Last but not the least, the team discusses all the input required to achieve each of those scenarios. This could be the data required to enter in a web page or the data required to send as part of an API. One of the biggest advantages of using OOPSIE is it always puts business outcome as a top priority and everything follows on from that business outcome. When you don't start with a business outcome and start thinking about the details and start with input, then the derived test scenarios won't add any value to the business. Automation is one of the biggest advantages of BDD. Once the scenarios are defined, when using a scripted BDD framework like Cucumber, the team would typically require quite a lot of time and resources to automate. But with NoCodeBDD, automation could be achieved in minutes and without code, requiring fewer resources. Once automated, you could use the reports like the one shown here to understand how well the team has implemented the solution and the outcome of it. Automating BDDs using NoCodeBDD is very simple. All you have to do is define your features, scenarios, and steps as you would normally do. And then you click on the step definitions to automate your step definitions. In this example, I'm going to show you a simple REST API automation. In the first step, I'm going to use a when keyword to call a REST API. And then in the next step, I'm going to use a then keyword to assert a REST API response. All I'm doing is clicking on step definitions, click new step definition, send a REST API request, input any API and any other information you want. In the next step, I'm going to assert the REST response. You can assert for a message or for the status. In this case, I'm going to assert for a response status of 200. And that's it. I'm done with the automation. All I have to do is click run and then I can see the output. It's as simple as that. Similar to APIs, you can automate browsers without writing Selenium code, relational databases, MQ, and you can write your own scripts for those edge cases. When using BDD, it is quite important to manage the BDD in a separate repository, and only when all required BDD scenarios pass, the team should decide to merge the changes to master. Passing scenarios should be part of your definition of done. When merged to master, your CI/CD pipeline should run and make sure all your BDD scenarios pass, and only then releasing the changes to higher environments should be considered.